Testing audio, testing audio, testing, testing, testing.
Well, you test just fine.
It's what?
You test just fine.
Okay, good.
A+ on your grade on your test.
Interesting. I'm bumping up the sensitivity a little bit because it looks low to me.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay, I'll leave it where it is. All right. Anyway, I am off to my one and only experience in an all-inclusive, everything included resort vacation starting tomorrow. That's why I'm not going to be on the call tomorrow.
You're flying out tomorrow morning.
Yes, and I'm also returning next Saturday morning. So I'm here today, not tomorrow, not next Saturday, but I will be back the following Sunday, the 30th.
Okay. So you're going to try to start the session tomorrow, but probably not next Saturday?
I'll try to do both, and I'll message you because I'm not exactly sure what the logistics are, but I'll try to keep you guys informed. And if
Okay.
possible, I'll make sure that you can do this.
It's no big deal. I mean, it's summertime, people are on holiday, and if we miss a session, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to double check. Okay. No, that's not as good. I was just saying, that's a messy background, but blurring it makes it worse, I think.
Yeah. I discovered on a free account, if you're not logged in, they don't offer you the fancy backgrounds. You have to be logged in to get them. I don't know why that is. But when I reboot my machine, I don't always get around to logging in. And the first time that happened, I go, what happened to my backgrounds? Oh, I wasn't logged in.
Well, I think one of the things, Zoom is a weird company. They make some weird decisions. Like, for example, I think they bought Keybase, and I used to use Keybase a lot. But now, a lot of people I'm seeing online are having trouble logging into their Keybase account. And in fact, I haven't been able to myself, which is unfortunate because it was touted as end-to-end secure when it was first announced. So I put a lot of important stuff up there. So I still need to be able to get at it.
Yeah. Well, the new Zoom Workplace I think I had one laptop with an AMD processor that Zoom Workplace just doesn't run on. You launch it and it just.
I'm going to test my mute button, okay? I'm going to really just. So I should be muted right now. Can you hear me? I'm moving.
I can hear you just fine.
You can hear me just fine?
Absolutely.
So this mute button doesn't actually work on my microphone.
Evidently not.
Strange.
I have a Logitech like that where the physical mute button doesn't do anything.
All right.
It's supposed to, it just doesn't.
There's a Blue Yeti. Should be a good one.
Um,
Okay. Anyway, it's Saturday, so I don't necessarily drive the discussions on Saturday.
yeah, I don't really know I mean, we're sort of in I won't say a lull because there are things happening, but it's lullish because a lot of people are, it's the week after school ends, so a lot of people took their holidays.
I don't know if it doesn't feel like a lull last week. I mean, we had what, 4 or 5 people the last, 2, 3
Yeah,
times.
we had Heiner on. Yeah, Josh was on.
Come to at least half the
Oh,
session.
and yeah, and then Sam Shan came on for the second hour.
Exactly.
He's never on for the first hour on Saturdays.
He's rarely on Saturdays.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's Sunday, he's not on for the first hour, whatever it is, something like
I
that.
think he joined for a half hour last Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what's new today. Did I take any notes?
It is officially summer as of yesterday or day before.
That's right. So days are officially getting shorter now.
Yep. We've already had the longest day of the year.
Though practically it doesn't feel that way, at least for several days.
And maybe the hottest day of the year. I mean, Boston broke an all-time record, not an all-time record, but broke a record for June 19th. And it broke it by 2 degrees. It was a 100-year-old record, broke it by 2 degrees.
Well, last night here on the island, it got down to 51.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And yesterday, or 2 days ago, when it was warm on the mainland, it got to 84. But here, when it was 84 there, it was 72 here. It was
Yeah, you're surrounded by water. Yeah.
right.
So,
So I
yeah.
like living here.
I don't know what the record, the suburbs of Boston, the inland suburbs, I don't know if they have records going back very far. And there's so many small towns, and they don't really tell you what the high and low is, except for Logan Airport or some, Maine, little other station in Boston, which is right, that's also on the water, but it's also downtown. Well, sort of downtown.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I do know that 90% of the country is in a heat wave, but that's why I
Yeah.
really appreciate being here.
Yeah, my friend in Utah said it reached 95, and that was one of the coolest spots in the country a day or two ago.
Well,
Yeah,
then I
we
should
got we
not
got to
speak
90.
more about this place then.
Yeah, we got to 96 or 98. I can't remember. I think it was 90, maybe 96 or 97 locally, just by my own,
So do you actually have air conditioning in your apartment?
Yeah, my condo has my downstairs AC works, my upstairs AC, which I never turn on. Eventually, if you don't use it all the time, then it gets the connections eventually don't seal anymore. After some decades, it stopped working. And I just never bothered to. I tried to refill it once or twice, and it didn't last. It would leak out. I discovered that Freon will set off your smoke detectors.
You have a leak somewhere?
Well, yeah. So what's the inside unit called? The condenser, whatever the inside unit is called. It leaked from that, or actually the fittings to it leaked, and set off the upstairs smoke detector. And I realized, okay, it was a waste of money to have it recharged because it wouldn't hold it because the fittings had dried out over the years. And it's the old, 35-year-old Freon formula, which is obsolescent and very expensive. It's not worth it. So both my eyes are now almost 2 weeks old. This eye will be 2 weeks old on Monday. This eye will be 6 weeks old on Monday. And I think because of floaters, which never go away, I never quite get down to 2020, get down to 2025, mainly because of floaters.
When your left eye, you were 2025 already a week or two ago.
The new eye was 2025 the very next day, and this eye eventually got to 2025 after, I think, 4 weeks.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I'll probably be 2025 nominally. I'll be 2025 probably indefinitely. I mean, it's conceivable it could get a little better, but if it's the floaters that are the final impairment, they're not going to go away.
Actually, plenty good. A lot of people can't even get that level of correction even with glasses or contacts.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because at the end of life of my last eyeglasses, at the best I was getting was 2050 in the good eye, which is why my optometrist sent me to get my cataracts. She says I can't get you to 2040 anymore, or she didn't actually say that, but it was pretty clear that. And the main thing is that we were waiting for the right eye to be ready for cataracts, and she says, "All right, it's more than ready. Go get them both done now." But that was a very successful pair of operations, and I'm still taking drops for another 2 weeks. We'll see.
That's good.
I don't have to wear the shield in bed at night anymore. I only have to do that for a week. So that's that story. That's not news. That's kind of old news, basically. And there really isn't any new news, I don't think.
Well, I think it's not yet news, but it's in anticipation. I'm actually curious, and in fact, to put it colloquially, I'd be in a betting mood.
What mood?
Whether or not the orange gorilla or orange ape shows up for the debates.
Oh, he'll show up. Did you hear the replay of the cacophony from the previous debate, like 4 years ago? They played the audio tape from the opening, and it was just everybody yelling at everybody simultaneously, including the moderator, and it was just everybody yelling at once. So now they will turn off the mic when it's not your turn.
Yes, and there'll be much tighter time control. So
And no audience is in the room.
yeah, that's going to be odd.
So you won't be playing to the crowd. But it still probably won't be very civil. I don't expect it to be very civil.
At least on one.
Doesn't mean that Trump won't try to yell out loud even when he doesn't have a mic. Although they try to put the podiums far enough apart that, even if you're yelling, you don't pick up on the other guy's mic. It's too far away.
Well, I'm happy that they're going to shut off the mics at the end of their time.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if that really works as I think that if the mics are directional, which they probably are, they probably won't pick up the other guy. I'm sure they've got that sort of worked out. Maybe even aim the mics away from the center axis. If they're smart about it, they'll have it working so that you can't hear the other guy. And they'll cut off their mic when they run out of time. They won't let them run over time. But it's a 90-minute debate. That's a long time for those two guys.
Yeah, and they'll be standing the whole time, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, they're 80, whatever, 87, 90, whatever their ages are, 78, 81, whatever their ages are. But even so, standing for 90 minutes, I mean, State of the Union message, they stand for that long.
That's 90 minutes? I didn't think those were for 90 minutes.
I think the State of the Union, it goes over an hour, and of course he walks in, so he's standing when he walks in, and then there's this applause, and then he's standing when he walks out. So I'm sure they're standing and walking for easily 90 minutes. Maybe not the whole talk for 90 minutes, but close to it.
Yeah, and the State of the Union
gets
broken.
I never get much out of those talks. It's mostly hot air. In fact, almost all political speech is devoid of any useful information.
But there are still clues. There are still indicators. There's still fodder for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, stumbling over your words and gibberish and that. I mean, they
highlight, say,
Yeah, they highlight the pratfalls and the slipfalls and whatnot, but they don't break a whole lot of news. I mean, if you have a press conference, you're liable to break some important news, but I don't think you break any news in debates.
And I'm sure the Republican Party already has someone designated to give a response immediately after the debate.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Just like
I
that.
heard a story that behind the scenes, there are some Republicans that are trying to urge Trump to withdraw, but he ain't gonna.
So how significant is it that even Fox is now reporting polls that show Biden in the lead now?
Yeah, but 2%, and I don't know what the margin of error is on those polls.
The margin is not important. The trending, I think, is important.
Yeah, now if that trend widens and maintains, it's a steady increasing trend. But then you also have that anything can happen to either of these guys health-wise or otherwise.
That's why Kamala Harris is the unknown X factor that should not be as ignored or dismissed as she apparently is.
Yeah. Although that's not atypical for the vice presidential candidates.
Oh, normally these nominees are not quite this age.
That's true. Yeah. And oddly enough, if Trump wins, he will be the oldest person to take office ever.
Both of them will.
Yeah, but even Trump would be the oldest person to take office.
And he's showing more senility and mental destabilization than the other guy.
Yeah, William Henry Harrison only lived for a month in office, but I don't think he was that old.
Mhm.
Josh, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
All right. Muddling along, as it
You
were.
look, you guys both look wide awake, ready to go.
Yeah, although,
Yeah.
we play D&D on Friday nights, and between the junk food and going to bed late, I'm Saturday morning is not my best morning when we play D&D in person on Friday nights.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
If we play online, it's not, well, I don't really play online much anymore.
How long do you
Who's
go
your
for?
D&D group?
What was the question?
Who do you play with? Is it different ages, different
No,
people?
they're all, most of the people on it are either went to MIT together 50 years ago or are people who worked together, during their professional career. Some of the people were hires of one of the older guys.
Hmm.
But I guess three or four of them are now retired. I'm retired, Len's retired, Webb's retired. I guess three of us are officially retired from our remunerative careers.
Well, that's a fun group.
You know, the one thing about D&D is it has a lot of combat in it. I was never much a fan of the combat aspect of the game. And on the sessions where it's almost all combat, I'm just, can we have something besides combat, please?
Yeah, I when I was growing up, all my friends were obsessed with D&D, and I never played it.
Yeah. I never got any good at it. First of all, the rule books, I mean, you got three or four, I can't memorize all those rules. And I certainly wouldn't be able to remember how to adhere to them in any event. But two or three of the people are very good at knowing the rules off the top of their head and detecting when somebody is drifting away from what the rules say. I don't know how they can do that.
Are you allowed to have the rule book with you, or do you
Oh
not
yeah, you
allowed
can
to
have
take it?
them. Yeah, you can have them. In fact, you need them because a lot of things you simply can't. You have to look up because you can't remember. If you remember the name of some maneuver, but the details of what exactly it allows and entails, you some people, two or three of them can remember that. I can't. I can't even remember what the options are, let alone what the details of the options are.
Do you play different characters, or
Well, within any one person's DM, what do you call it? Adventure. You play the same character, but once you finish an adventure, you usually generate a brand new character for the next adventure run by whoever DM is going to run it. And sometimes
okay?
people do change characters in the middle because the character that they created is just not doesn't have enough of the correct resources, and they retire that one and start a new one. I find it hard enough
Uh,
just to create a character that's properly constituted.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I watch people play it. I've never played it, but I was just wondering if you played the same character, then the rules probably would be similar for that character, and then you get to know the.
Well, yeah, the options for a character depends on the character's class. So if you play the same kind of class of character, then the available things that class of character can do is a subset of the things that the union of all characters can do.
Hmm, okay.
But I kind of limit myself to probably not more than a half a dozen possible gestures per turn because I just can't keep track of all the things I'm able to do or that would be appropriate to do, or whether they would be effective. A lot of things that sound like they would be effective maneuvers, when you read the fine print, you realize, oh, they're really not going to do what you imagine that maneuver would be able to do. A lot of
Yeah.
times your maneuvers, either they fail on poor dice rolls or they simply never would have worked for other reasons, like the faculties of the opponents. The opponents were too strong and it wouldn't have worked anyway.
Hey, speaking on attacks, does I haven't looked it up yet. I heard about a cyber attack this week on all automakers. I was wondering if you guys know anything about that.
I
I
didn't hear
thought I heard a headline, was it Chrysler?
I think it was the company that's supposed to protect all the automakers got hacked.
Oh, maybe I didn't hear that story. I mean, they do recalls all the time, and some of them are on software.
No, this was the actual some sort of software that auto dealerships use was hacked.
Oh, there was,
But
yeah,
I
there
don't
was
know the
one that had to do with
details.
insurance. The people's insurance were going up unexpectedly, and that's because the things that were monitoring your driving characteristics were things like sudden stops and other sudden maneuvers that are correlated with accidents, but not necessarily bad driving. Like one person said she braked for a deer, and that if you didn't know that you were braking for a deer, it looked like you were braking because you were driving erratically. And so people were reporting that their insurance rates were rising inexplicably. And they determined that, I think it was GM, was allowing this
CDK.
information to get out to a third party who was then selling it to insurance companies. It was, what was the name of the?
Are you looking it up, Sam? The
Yeah, it's
CDK?
15,000 dealerships got hit because this company got CDK has 2 outages reported the last 2 days.
Oh, that's a different story. That's not the insurance one, man.
No. So they said
LexisNexis was buying data that was being collected and then selling the data to insurance companies. That's not a hack. That was a
that's
unadvertised.
business as usual for these guys.
Yeah, so that's the story. That was the story that I heard the most play on. I think the one you're talking about, I don't think I caught that story.
No,
Yeah, I haven't. It just happened a few days ago. I haven't had a chance
Oh,
to look it up.
yeah, no, I
the
haven't heard any.
15,000 auto dealers cannot make sales for 2 days. Imagine what that does to the auto sales numbers.
And housing sales were down too this past month, mainly because interest rates, I think, are going up. People couldn't get mortgages or something.
Yeah,
Depressed.
I spent a little time this week listening to people debate. They called it MMT, which is modern money theory. So the new economy theories of what our economy will look like in the future. It's
Yeah, probably.
we need who's the gentleman we have from Canada, the open money. Is there some yeah, I think it's a people are talking about it because of what happened with Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
going off the petrodollar.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what's it going to look like moving forward? That's interesting.
And then there was a story about hidden costs. Restaurants and other outfits have a lot of hidden fees. Airlines have hidden fees that, and even entertainment venues have hidden fees that are, just blow people away. Unadvertised fees that get tacked on after you thought you bought what you thought you paid for what you had contracted for. I was invited to dinner with some people who were in town for a few days, and I couldn't believe the restaurant prices, like $50 for a main course at well, that was the beef course but even so, $50 for a piece of beef. That I don't recall any restaurants that I would frequent, with prices that high. And even a piece of salmon was $37. I
The
don't know.
main course.
That was the main entree, and that was salmon, potatoes, and asparagus. That was it.
Mm.
That was it. Salmon and two veggies, potatoes and asparagus was $37. It wasn't. I was tasted fine. It was, but I'm thinking, God, that's a lot of money.
And have you been to that restaurant before?
I never even heard of that. It was called Redwood, Redstone Grill. I think it was called. I think it's a chain. It was
Oh,
Redstone.
okay.
But and it's a very short distance from where I live. But see, because I live alone and I don't have a significant other here, I hardly ever go out to eat unless there's a group going, you know. So, and even fast food, I think is you'd be lucky to get out of the fast food for less than $10 just to get like a burger or something. This
Yeah,
restaurant sold.
yeah,
I mean, they had a
I
hamburger.
saw this about what was it, 2 years ago. I went to a Burger King, and that's when it hit me that I was like, wait a second, a Whopper is like $7? Like, get out of here. Come on.
This
I
this
just
this restaurant we went to, they offered a hamburger entree was $18 just for hamburger entree with French fries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting how inflation works.
Yeah. So, I hardly ever eat out. And even so, I think supermarket prices have close to doubled since COVID, pretty close to doubled. And the portions, the
Yeah, let's
packaging
definitely
sizes got smaller.
let's definitely vote Joe Biden in again. I'm sure they won't double again.
I'm not
I'm
sure he
sure
has
his
that much.
administration.
I'm not sure he has that much control over that.
Well, it's not him, it's his administration, it's the cabinet.
But I
Yeah.
stopped eating beef anyway, except maybe once a year. I'll have a hamburger or something. That's
Yeah,
not-
I buy the Angus burger. It's $23 for I think 10 patties at Costco, 10 or
Yeah.
12 patties.
Yeah.
And it's the really good quality beef, and I freeze it. And then whenever I want a burger, I just take it out, cook it. It's lean, it's good. You can
I do
one
put
burger can make a
hamburger.
whole meal.
Yeah, I do put hamburger in spaghetti when hamburger's on sale for like, I don't know, $3 a pound or whatever. Then I'll buy a package and set it aside for spaghetti. That's about the only time I eat beef.
Yeah.
Except maybe occasionally when there's a cookout.
Yeah, for some reason it's cheaper at Costco frozen.
It probably is. It's probably less handling. It's more automated and less handling.
It's totally automated. They got the little patties and put them in the
Yeah.
big tube. It's like it
Yeah.
looks like a tube of burgers.
It's all automated, and because it's frozen, you don't have to deliver it every day. You can have maybe every other day delivery or something. So there's probably a lot less overhead.
Yeah. It's I defrost them. They're pretty fresh. Like when I've enjoyed it this last couple of years. I've just been
Yeah. I notice when you buy the ground beef in the supermarket, the part that you can see is red, but when you open it up, the darker stuff is kind of hidden underneath the surface layer, the older beef.
yeah.
They wrap new beef around the older beef. Although by the time you
Yeah.
cook, I think you can't really tell any difference.
Yeah, I wish I could make a deal with we got a cattle farm right next to our property. And their cows are always barging into our property. I'm like, hey, this is a tax for your cows wrecking our pond.
Right. Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm
Unfortunately,
gonna blow my nose.
unlike a plant, you can't just pick one edible bite off of a cow like you can off of a tree. That's the downside. You have to slaughter the whole animal.
Yeah, I
That
wanted
would
to
be
slaughter that cow. The group of cows.
that would
but,
be
it's
an
illegal.
innovation if they could somehow engineer an animal where you could take a chunk of meat from it, but like you can from a tree, but not kill it. So you can harvest a chunk of meat, but as far as I know, there isn't any animal. Well, maybe there's some you can take an arm off of maybe an octopus and it'll grow a new arm, but
And worms.
yeah, but people don't eat worms except in maybe
Yeah, they
Australia.
do. Yeah, they do.
I mean, yeah, in Asia, yeah, there are countries where you can eat worms, but the kind of
Lizards.
chicken, pork, and beef, you can't harvest a piece of meat and it'll regrow. Although I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 20, 30 years they figure out a way that you could do that.
Well, they do it with growing it in the laboratory, but
Yeah, we already
Yeah,
have synthetic meat.
Yeah, synthetic meat, you could certainly do that with synthetic meat. Whether they do a hybrid of biological meat and synthetic meat where you can regrow a portion of the flesh. I wouldn't be surprised if they finally figure that out, but I'm not sure if it's, I mean, yes, if you're raising cattle on your own farm, you don't have to slaughter a whole unit of a cow. You could harvest a portion of a cow, and that would be quite an innovation for in any farm to table scenario. That would be an innovation.
That would be a step backwards if you ask Temple Grande. Like that would not be a nice. Imagine you're the cow and a chunk of your shoulders gone, and a chunk of your butt's gone, and that wouldn't be a good life for a cow with they
Yeah.
missing the muscle they need to live.
Well, yeah, I mean, people do have, what is it, liposuction or something, where they get rid of butt fat or
Yeah, why
gut
don't we just
fat.
eat? We could just eat human fat. Human.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's sort of a strange topic, but
No, I like the way your mind's thinking. I just think you got to take into account the cow has to run around and eat and get up and down a hill.
I mean, you take milk out of a cow and it replenishes that. So it's not that you can't
Sure.
replenish protein. It's just that milk, I guess, is about the only protein that you can do that. If you can do that for muscle meat or flesh meat, anyhow, I'm sure biologists will say why or why not, that's conceivably possible with bioengineering, whatever, genetic engineering.
Yeah. Well, in your theory, you're just taking limbs off of a tree, but at the end of the day, it's more work to do that than just to cut down the whole tree and grow a new one.
Yeah, but if you're taking fruit off a tree, then picking fruit, I mean, that's sort of the idea, is you pick an edible portion, but you don't kill the whole thing. It's not a big deal.
I don't know. I don't from a yeah. I just don't see it.
Probably by the time you could do that with a living animal, you just do laboratory grown meat just as easily, I suppose. So
Yeah.
I've
Or
only
you
had an
just
Impossible Burger once or twice, and it wasn't very good. But that was a long time ago.
yeah. Well, the prices will continue to. I'm expecting mass inflation over the next 10, 20 years. Like,
Yeah. I mean, to earn a living, to earn a living today, you need to earn over $100,000 is basically a minimum comfortable income. Which is,
depends where you live.
well, yeah, in the US, I'm going to say in an urban US, maybe not in Alabama, or Mississippi, but
Well, I've been thinking a lot about if we could survive without federal income tax, just state income taxes.
yeah. Anyhow, I mean, there's so many variables in the model that I just don't have any way to reason about them reliably, other than to say the cost of living's going up. That's probably a given, but other than that,
Well, I think the unit of measurement from a system standpoint is what ratio of each individual can you invest in? Meaning looking at each person as a stock quantity, as a corporation, and saying if you invest this much into the individual in education and health and lifestyle and well-being, how much could that contribute to the economy?
yeah. I think a lot of blue collar workers gave up to mechanical automation. Now, a lot of the lower tier white collar workers are going to be ruled out by low hanging AI.
I think the question is what do we want to buy and consume and sell? Like what are the products and services of the future? That's the real question that I keep asking.
The
Like,
one that's hard to
when I
reckon is entertainment.
when I was a kid, there was no job called web developer.
But there was, people who did layout for magazines and You know, there was in the print media or in television, radio, there was people who put together content developers, continuity, movies and TV shows and stuff. So there was continuity, just was different medium.
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing today. There's gonna be same jobs that we're doing, just morphed into a
Yeah.
different way.
Be more digital than it was. But a lot of digital simply supplanted, you know, the pre-digital version of the same product or service.
I think there's gonna be new products and services that we haven't even imagined.
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, the self-driving car thing is going to be, and it'll be gradual, but it'll be profound.
It's supposed to happen on August 8th this year.
Really? What, in California, maybe?
No, they're announcing the Tesla company has a thing called Robotaxi Day, and they already showed the application, the software, and they have the AI software that's being worked on, and now they're going to show the actual physical car that
Yeah.
drives itself on August 8th.
Yeah, I mean, in Las Vegas, they've been able to do that for years because Las Vegas is flat, doesn't have bad weather, it's not that big, and the streets are easy to navigate. It's in some parts of the country where driving is hard even for a human. You know, the roads are curvy.
Well,
And
Waymo did it in San Francisco with the hills, and
did they?
yep.
Okay.
Waymo mapped San Francisco, and they had you could get in a car, no drivers in the car, and drive around.
Yeah.
And they brought it to Los Angeles. I didn't try one in Los Angeles, but I've heard legends of people watching cars go by with no one in the passenger seat. And then they have all those robots delivering pizzas and takeout in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I could see that in certain neighborhoods where they're not terribly congested, like the suburbs. I could see Uber Eats kind of thing, robo delivery of stuff.
Yeah, it's right at the tip of our zeitgeist. It's right about to happen. It's like this close, but this far away. The drone deliveries too. I was watching a company called Zipline that was working with Walgreens and
Yeah,
Walmart.
yeah, I saw a video of them a year or two ago.
Yeah, quiet propellers and a long string that comes down out of the device and delivers the package at the front door.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a big thing. I think in 2014 or so, that or 2012, Amazon was saying they were going to have all drone deliveries for their packages, but that didn't work out too well.
Yeah, a lot of the hype basically is overhyped on all the frontiers. They always predict more
Well,
than is delivered.
yeah, well, the giant airships are supposed to come back. I've been seeing all these different, like Boeing and McDonnell Douglas, trying to build these huge airships.
Oh, the helium airships? I hadn't heard that was coming back. They're not
Yeah,
very fast. I mean, I guess maybe for short distances they might be efficient. Transcontinental, they take forever. They don't go very fast.
yeah. So someone cracks those. That's what I'm saying is it's hyped up because they don't have the energy or the need or the wherewithal to do that. But if thousands of people lose their jobs and they have to work on that project, it's always allocation of resources.
It's really hard. I mean, because you can't really foresee technological breakthroughs, or even if you see that technological breakthroughs are being worked on, you don't know when they're going to become commercially viable and profitable. And a lot of things get developed, but they never get deployed because the overhead just doesn't. Some of the energy systems that people have tried never became commercially viable.
Yeah.
Even though they exist. I think we're awaiting a big breakthrough in battery storage technology. If we ever get the big breakthrough, in battery storage, that could really change the
How
economy
much, how many gigawatts are you talking here?
a lot.
Because I was gonna say California just put in some really big batteries.
Yeah. Well, certain locations it's economical. Some places in Australia it's economical. Um, but I think right now there's only niche markets where it's realistic.
Yeah. I just saw a really cool company that looks like they're a startup. I don't know how viable they are. It's called Gradient. And they built a new heating cooling system for windows in New York because the housing authority wants those old steam heaters out of the buildings.
What's wrong with the steam heaters?
Hard to maintain. They're
Oh
having
yeah,
trouble in the basements of these buildings. They're not
yeah. I guess
working
they are
properly.
clunky. I guess they are clunky and all. And as the pipes age, replacing all the pipes for steam heat, yeah, I could see that it becomes uneconomical as those systems age out.
Yeah, I would love to see buildings that I saw people building bricks that can actually store heat like energy, like a battery.
Yeah, Trombe walls. Have you ever heard of a Trombe wall?
I've heard of it.
Trombe wall is if you have, say, a south-facing wall, you put glass in the south-facing wall and then a very massive uh, stone or brick wall, and that it'll receive the sunlight through the glass, heat up the wall in the daytime, and then radiate it back out into the hallway at night. So it gives you
Mhm.
this, it's a capacitor, it's a thermal capacitor, and that's called a Trombe wall. It's totally passive. Um, and it works as long as you've got a reasonable amount of sunlight coming in during the daytime and enough storage that's more than 24 hours worth of storage. Like you need maybe 2 or 3 days worth of storage to account for cloudy days and things like that.
Yeah. If you go to the Middle East, there's buildings that are built with small narrow passageways to move air in and out
Yeah.
passively.
Yeah. So yeah, passive heating and cooling. I go down my basement. It's like you go into a cave. It's always 55 degrees in a cave. If you've got enough thermal storage, and the ground is a good place for thermal storage. If you can get the extra heat into the ground and then pull it back out of the ground at night, um, then that's a big thermal capacitor, the ground, if you could tap into it.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping technology gets us over the hump of the massive change that we need to move towards a future civilization.
Yeah. The real problem is having a civilization that doesn't have too many options for corruption. Almost everything that comes along, people figure out how to use it, how to weaponize it, and use it corruptly. And
What
I
if corruption goes out of fashion?
well, that's basically Homo sapiens have to go out of fashion. I mean, it's possible for Homo sapiens to learn ethics, but it's not very common for them to learn ethics. Were you on last week when we talked about the question you would ask a candidate? Can't remember if you were on. Sam brought up a friend of his was asking, what question would you ask of a candidate? And I said one about whether or not they were trained in ethics and whether they could do ethical reasoning and adhere to it on a consistent basis, some kind of a question like that, because it's hard to bullshit an answer uh, and be credible. You have to have some kind of a track record that you've demonstrated ethical reasoning, the faculty of ethical reasoning, and you've demonstrated that you adhere to it on a consistent
Mhm.
basis. And I don't know that I've ever heard a moderator ask a question like that of a candidate. How do you assure the voting public that you are competent in ethical reasoning and that you would adhere to ethical reasoning in each and every scenario that comes before you?
Yeah, I don't know about ethics, but I did see an interview with Trump and some Silicon Valley people trying to hold Trump to what he would do about the Ukraine war. and
He
his
would have
ethics in terms
Ukraine,
of war.
he would have them lose. I think it's pretty clear. He would have Russia take over Ukraine and Ukraine be the loser.
Wait, how does he get to decide that? What do you mean?
That's what he wants to see. And he would withdraw support, military support for Ukraine and provide support for Russia. That is, take away he would take away the sanctions on Russia and
Is
take
that
away
what he said?
support. Huh?
Is that what Trump said?
In so many words. I mean, I don't think he's not very articulate, but you can read between the mumblings as to what he would do. I mean, remember that telephone call with Ukraine where he says, "I want something in return. I want you to get some dirt on Biden." I mean, it's pretty clear that that he's not a big fan of saving Ukraine, and he is a big fan of
A telephone call dirt on Biden?
during when Trump was the president.
I remember what you're talking about in the gap, but I'm saying, did he actually documentedly recorded saying, "I
Yeah,
want dirt on Biden"?
he wanted them to turn up dirt, I think, on Hunter Biden, not Joe Biden. He wanted to turn up some kind of dirt on the Biden crime family in return for delivering military aid to Ukraine.
Yes, this is a phone call he had with Zelensky.
You're right. And here's Kayla. And he had a Ukrainian person in the White House who overheard the call and basically revealed it. Hi, Kayla.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, Josh. I've been meaning to message you.
Hey.
You live in Fraser Park, right? Or kind of close to there?
Yeah, just deeper into the woods, but yeah, right near Fraser Park.
Okay. I guess I'll message you later. Anyways,
Okay.
I'm saying hi. And I apologize if I've interrupted the conversation.
You're
No,
not.
no, we were about to go into politics and it was going to get nasty, so you came in at a good time.
We're talking
Perfect.
boring politics, boring stuff.
Yeah. I guess what I was just trying to make a point, not to get too deep into the Ukraine war, is that the morality of going to war in the first place or continuing a war, how you get out of that, I'm sure is not as easy as how you get into it. I think it's easier to get into a war than to get out of a war.
Same was true in Israel. I mean, Putin thought it was going to be a one-day war, and it's been, what, a year and a half already, something like that?
2 years.
2 years. So, yeah. Once wars, I mean, wasn't there a 100-day war somewhere in world history? 100-year war somewhere in world history once upon a time.
China's
Yeah.
had those.
I'd just like to see no more wars. That's one thing that I think if you're going to have a war, someone needs to be a victor and really win. But when both sides lose, that's not a good war.
Most wars, everybody loses.
Yeah, so what's the point?
Well, that's just it, is that the people who are running the countries simply can't pull the option of absorb your losses and don't retaliate. The push to retaliate is so strong, and yet it's so contraindicated in terms of the long range outcome.
Because we
But you
each
got
have
to
our own
answer
notion
violence
of
with
what is fair.
violence. Say again, Sam.
Because we each have our own notion of what is fair and just.
Yeah, and the time horizon for evening the score. If you try to even the score in the short term, that's not a good strategy. But most people think that when you're going to even the score, then you got to do it right away, if at all.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think in order to rebuild a city, it's hard to voluntarily knock it down and rebuild it. It's easier to have a war and let it get knocked down in the wartime.
But I mean, Japan lost World War II big time, but then slowly they won the economic battle in the long term. They came back slowly with the post-war technology and became the dominant purveyor of consumer electronics and other economic products.
What if we could do that without the war? That's my question.
Well, the trade wars, I mean, that's the thing about trade wars is that you can have a long-term strategy that wins, but it's slow. It's the tortoise and the hare story. The slow and steady wins the race. And in economic warfare, that is often the case.
Yeah, I think it's a few people making decisions for the whole.
Yeah.
Because the people that fight the wars have nothing against the people they're fighting. They're just children. They haven't even lived long enough to hate someone.
They don't want to be there. Even the Ukrainian soldiers don't want to be in the war.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the old thing of the Vietnam War. People fled to Canada. And why were we fighting Vietnam? What the hell was that about?
It was a false flag attack.
But we don't seem to learn.
Nope, we went into Iraq, we went into Afghanistan.
Yeah. I mean, I could see right away that those were pointless. Those were hit them back, and it costs us more to hit them back than to simply absorb the damage and rebuild the home.
Yeah, Kayla was messaging me in the back channel. I was
Okay.
if I think that we've come to a lull. If you wanted to discuss it, Kayla, here, I don't know if that's something you wanted to do in public or.
Oh, no, I don't mind. I just didn't know if it was an interesting topic for everybody.
Okay.
Just to add to the whole idea of wars, I just think for the most part they're pretty
I think your topic is
unnecessary.
much more interesting than war.
Oh.
In other words, it's my birthday coming up on Wednesday, and one of my favorite birthdays, I went to the Lavender Festival in Ojai, and it was a really amazing day just to be around a whole group of artists and people that love lavender. It was really special and very sleepy. It put me to sleep walking around.
The
Yeah.
color or the flower?
The flower.
Flower. Okay.
Yeah, it's all sorts of crafts made out of lavender and just actual, like, I bought little pillows for my nieces that you put under your pillow, little tiny packets of lavender.
Oh
And
yeah,
you
those
just,
satchels.
yeah, I just think, yeah, personally love lavender. I think it's a really important herb
Yeah,
or
it's got a lot
flower.
of really great properties to it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was asking Josh where he lived and if it was close to Lubbock Oaks. So from what I understand, Fraser Park and Lubbock, I don't know how to pronounce it. They are an hour away from Ventura, and Ventura is north of you guys, and then an hour away from Los Angeles. So it's kind of sort of in the middle, if you will. My friend, who's actually my coworker as well, is her boyfriend's mom owns a lavender farm in Lubbock. And it sits on 5 acres. There's two houses there. Well, a house and an apartment complex. It's a full-on working farm. It's remote, and it's for sale. So I was asking Josh about, what it's like to live there. I've only lived remote in Hawaii. So at the age of 19, I moved to Hawaii. It was the very first place I ever moved by myself. And I lived in the mountains of Kahakuloa. Back then, it was owned by the Boys and Girls Club, or no, not the Boys and Girls Club, the Boy Scouts. And it was, I don't know, it was huge, but it was so far remote that you could not hear the freeway or their local highway, and you can hear a waterfall in the distance. So I lived remote up in Hawaii, and it was beautiful, but it was pretty daunting. I've always wanted to live remote. I am forever a nature girl, even though I live here in Ventura. I'm always longing for that slice of nature and slice of heaven. So, of course, when an opportunity comes, I'm kind of dreaming. So, I discussed the situation with my sons, and both of them are kind of like, ew. I think honestly, think the timing is not good, but in a perfect world, someone can dream and put their intentions. So, anyway, that was my ask of Josh. Just like, what is it like living remote? Only because when the boys get older, I do intend to move somewhere that's far away from the city as possible.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, just because of this year, there was a big wildfire up in our area. It's still burning right now. Is because there's not as many houses, you're subject to that wildfire situation. That's the only
Yeah,
thing.
I know.
And then the only other aspect is the nearest like Costco or big grocery store is 45 minutes away. And if there's problems on the 5 or traffic, then it messes it up. So it's you kind of, it's one of those lifestyles where you hang out at your house for a week and a half, and then you go into town every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
So if you have 2 refrigerators and a freezer, you'll love your life.
And reliable
Yeah,
electricity. You need reliable electricity too.
I also heard that the insurance, is something to consider as well, because it was difficult for me to get this house insured over in Ventura, and we weren't even close to the fires. But so my insurance unfortunately has doubled, and I understand that if you are in a place where most insurances won't accept it, then you have to get state insurance, which is what, $10,000 or something, and then the insurance will accept it. Some crazy scheme, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, but I like the
Yeah.
idea. There's a 3-bedroom, 2 house on the property. There's a 2-bedroom apartment on the property. They've got a big barn where you can put, your vehicles, a 3-horse stall. My friend Addie, she loves horses. She loves animals. My sister, she is interested in the place for events, and of course, I'm interested in just living there. So it's a dream, right
Yeah,
now.
I would say the place where I'm living is an intentional community started, I think, in the early 80s or late 70s. And it's really a community, meaning if you're into golfing and horses and you're a Christian and like to go to church, they have they have a public a group swimming pool for the people that live here. It's a club actually. So it's like
Oh,
living
nice.
in a country club in the woods.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to worry about your livelihood. If you have a nest egg and it can retire, fine. If you need to earn a livelihood, being out in the,
Well, the interesting part is I've also been contacted by a recruiter who said that they were impressed by my resume and asked if I would be interested in being their development director, which is in Bakersfield. So their position would be remote, except for maybe once a month staff meetings.
Oh, nice.
And yeah,
maintain your livelihood, then being remote is great if you can maintain your livelihood.
yeah, I can mush these dogs in the in the mountains. Which,
Yeah,
by the way, today's. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just saying, like, for me, I wouldn't want I can't do any other lifestyle after living up at the property that burned down. I just got used to every morning waking up in quiet in nature. And like right now, I'm talking to you guys. There's no honking horns. There's no people. Like it's just quiet. And I'm in the suburbs compared to where I was living up in the mountains. So I can't not live in quiet and solitude.
Yeah, I hear you. That was kind of my situation in Thomas. I
I
mean,
remember. Yeah, it's real quiet out there.
I really, really miss that. And, I know my parents helped me get this house, and I'm happy to be away from, a really bad landlord that I had. But, it's a shame that meeting in the middle, it kind of has its downfalls because, yes, I own this house, but at the same time, it wouldn't have been ultimately the house that I've chosen. And for the reasons that they stated, like, oh, you don't want to live somewhere there is a septic tank. To me, that was ridiculous. But I can't say no to my own house, especially with the market these days. I mean, it really did help itself. It's just, something to look forward to in about 5 years, or who knows, maybe now, maybe something will present itself.
Yeah. I think you have to love a place if you're gonna be there for a while. Like it doesn't make sense to just be. I mean, if you're buying, I'm saying you have to really want to be there. And I think
Yeah.
the people out here are definitely not your top quality people, if you will. Meaning there's a lot of
Yeah.
meth heads, and like Fraser Park is known for a little place in between where I am and Fraser Park that's just a mobile home facility, a bunch of meth heads and crack people. So
Yeah.
we just pass by it. Like Fraser Park itself is kind of this little crappy town with a little grocery store that's overpriced, maybe 2 restaurants and a gun store and a gas station. So there's just nothing here. There's just like it's very rural. But we get the snow, which is what I like if you're into the snow.
Mhm.
And I personally love just once I hit Santa Clarita and like Magic Mountain area, that
Uh-huh.
nice quiet drive home, that last little 30 minutes of just peace and quiet on the freeway, especially when there's no big trucks. That I like the drive home. It just makes me feel good as opposed to sitting in traffic in LA. Sometimes going across town in LA would take an hour.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more driving, more rural. You're gonna have some wildlife and bears to deal with. And if
Yeah.
you like all that stuff, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's a real different lifestyle change. I know Qcella is not. We're gonna have to have a house back in the city soon because Qcella is not a country girl. She grew up in the city.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. So that's why we got the Tesla car, because pretty soon it will just, she'll get in the car, do her phone call. She's already doing that now. She just gets to the freeway and clicks it in auto drive and does her work on the way down to she has an office in Riverside, not Riverside, was it San Dimas. So
Mm.
it's a 2 hour drive.
Yeah.
And
I
then
was thinking about your drive too, Sam. I remember it's a long drive, but for some reason it was pleasant. It was very pleasant. All of those trees is just absolutely beautiful. I don't mind driving for that long. I mean, I'm happy that school is out for several reasons, but the main reason is I don't have to waste 2 hours of my life sitting in traffic going through the freeway. Because from Ventura to Thomas, it's like half an hour in traffic and then half an hour back in traffic. Um, like if my commute was lined by trees and nature, I really wouldn't care.
yeah. Well, let me know when you're checking it out. You're welcome to come up and say hi. We're always just hanging out up here.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully soon. It's going to be on the market. It's not on the market yet. They're preparing to take pictures and put it on the market. Um, but I would
All right.
love to see that place and see the possibilities. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, this community is sort of secret. Like a lot of people in Ventura and that area know about Pine Mountain, but they've never been here. So if you are going to Lebec, definitely come on up here and check out this little community because it's real different than anything in California.
Check out the meth heads.
No, you just don't stop, just keep going past that trailer park. And you'll see a giant, it looks like a church, a three-story church, but it's really a cell tower.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's when you're driving up here, you go to Fraser Park, and then it gets to the point where it says, don't go any further. Look, the National State Forest, bears, chain, you must have chains for the winter, and it looks like it's the end of the road.
Yeah.
But then you go down that road for another 4 miles and you come to a whole brand new situation.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I've
it's
been
kind
to
of
Pine.
hidden. You've been up
Yeah.
here?
Yep, I
Okay.
have. And we did go past that area where it said chains are
Yeah.
required. So it's
And that,
perfect now that I have a 4x.
oh, nice. What are you driving now? Did I cut out?
No, you're there.
Okay.
Did Kayla cut out? She's still sending her picture.
Hello?
Can you
Hey,
hear
there
me?
you are.
Yay. Did you ask me what kind of car I had?
Yeah. I was just curious what kind of 4x.
Oh, I've got a 4Runner. I've got the 2024
Oh, that's a great car.
4Runner. Yeah.
Brand new one.
Yeah. I already took it off-roading a couple of months ago.
Hmm.
Yeah. When it was still like, the rivers were still pretty high. That was so much fun.
Can I ask you, how are the shocks on that car going up bumpy roads?
Oh, it's great.
Like this?
I mean, you could still feel the bumpy roads, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Uh,
I
I'm
mean,
trying to find one for my mother-in-law and my father-in-law to go up to the mountains. We get really, it's just hard in the Subaru. You get bumped around, and I just trying to find like a good big car that I can bring that, like, rent and bring them up there in a nice vehicle.
compared to the Subaru, it's definitely, a lot easier.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's, the stock cars have a nice lift to it. And so I don't know, it just makes it feel safer. And when I was off-roading around some big boulders and stuff, it felt good. It felt very safe and manageable.
Nice.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I would love to have a giant truck with a really nice suspension that's really wishy-washy. Like I can put it into squish mode. It's really hard, Barry, when you're going up these roads. Like imagine your whole spine just getting shaken for like 45 minutes up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love about this car. I mean, like I just feel safe. When we had our retreat for our organization, it wasn't even in an area that had a lot of, the road was a dirt road, but it was well paved.
Hmm.
Anyhow, people were having a hard time parking their cars because there wasn't really a place to park, but knowing that I could put my 4Runner anywhere and get out of it, it just made me feel more confident.
Well, I wish you much happiness, and I hope the place is awesome. And yeah, let me know when if you're up in the area. We can always go into Fraser Park and meet you for lunch at the one or two restaurants they have there.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I'm looking up the price of Toyota 4Runners right now.
They're a bit pricey. So I belong to a bunch of 4Runner clubs, and they said, if you can, try to buy it out of state.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're a little more. I would probably get a Tundra before I got a 4Runner, just because we have to haul lumber.
Ooh.
But yeah, that's a nice car. That's a great vehicle to that's perfect for this area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Been, it's funny, everyone in Pine Mountain is buying the Tesla cars. I'm sort of surprised. I keep seeing more and more. up here. I think everyone has solar panels on the roof up here. That's what it is.
That would make sense, yeah. Yeah, if you got a lot of sunshine, you can harvest it.
Mm.
You can,
That's kind of why we bought the car. Is the front of our, when you drive into the driveway, there's a big voltage set up for trailers or RVs, or like it's a 240 volt already sitting there, and the house already has the solar panels. So it was kind of a no-brainer, like, okay, well, that means that we don't have to pay for gas for a few years. Oh, let's do the math on that. $6,000 a year times 3. Oh yeah, you can afford that easy.
what's the lifetime?
Have you-
What's the
Um,
lifetime
they-
of the solar panels?
On the solar panels, I have no idea. They were here built into the house when we got here, so they're supposed to last. Average solar panels usually degrade about, I think, 30% in 10 years.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
No.
Have you heard of the Rivian?
Yeah. Yeah, I see those up here a lot.
Yeah, isn't that an electric truck?
Yep.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be more, you know,
If you want to pay
I-
$80,000 and then the software, the truck is a great truck. Everyone I know that has it likes it, but the range and the software is not very good. Plus, it doesn't have charging stations for Tesla. So now you can charge it in a Tesla, but it's not easy to find charge stations for a Rivian.
Hmm.
So it's not good for long trips. For sure, if you're living in a place where you don't have to go far, it's a great car. Sorry, I got Aya banging on the window. I'll be back. Is it okay if Aya says hello?
Hiya.
Hi.
Look.
Oh my
Stand up,
Hey, say hi to Kayla, Barry, and Sam.
stand up, Patty. Stand up, Patty.
She's so pretty. You're so pretty.
Okay, wait, not so loud, not so loud. Show them what it is.
So big.
This is she's playing virtual reality on the iPad with a centipede.
Oh,
And
wow.
it moves around.
Nice.
Oh, it's going on my leg.
That is a big iPad.
Yeah, it used to be mine, now it's hers.
So wasn't it? No.
It is mine. Yeah, oh, now you realize that. It only took you.
He is on.
Yeah, we were playing last night. We found a AR virtual reality game that puts spiders and dinosaurs into the living room. And you they interact with you. So if you stand still, they'll climb up to you or roar at you.
Pretty
Oh,
fancy.
that's cool.
That's cool of you.
Yeah, you like them? Is that your favorite?
Yeah.
Okay. Can Daddy go back outside,
No.
please?
No. You can just stay here
Oh,
for a long day.
okay.
What?
Do you remember Barry?
Yeah.
Say hi.
I got the wash here.
You have a rash. Oh,
Right here.
You put a Band-Aid on it?
Yeah, and I got a big, huge
Did the
rash.
Band-Aid give you a rash?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really hot.
She won't take the Band-Aid off once she puts it on.
Aw.
By the way, it's not.
Were you scratching it? Yeah. Was it
So,
big?
ow, ow, ow. Dada.
Yeah, she's all grown up now, Barry. Are you grown up now?
Aya, you wanna tell them why you put on the neck?
Look, I have a boo-boo.
You have a boo-boo on your boobie? Okay.
A boo.
All right. Is it okay to go back outside? All right. Hello, you can come out. Come out. Come outside.
Let's go outside.
All right. Sorry, guys. I don't know.
Go outside.
No topics today?
Well, now Saturday, we don't really have an agenda. Sunday, we're supposed to have agendas, although I don't know about tomorrow because Sam's going to be on an airplane tomorrow. So
Oh. What are you doing right now, Sam?
I'm not
He's
sure.
getting ready for his flight.
I'm not sure if he's even in attendance here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's flying off to I guess a holiday for a week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he'll be here tomorrow. Well, he'll try to start the meeting, but he won't be. He'll be basically becoming airborne, and then he's coming home on an airplane next Saturday. So he's basically going to be Sunday, and next Saturday he's going to be probably unavailable.
That's fun.
Look how blue your sky is.
Yeah, see, I can be there. Whatever.
You have a lot of outdoor awning stuff set up, a lot more than I recall before.
Oh, it's summer solstice, so the sun is beating down like crazy.
So you've hooked up a few more shade.
Yeah, I actually bought a one of those hanging tents that you hang and swing in, but the roof isn't high enough, so I've got to lift this up another 4 feet.
I see.
So, yeah, yeah. I is just bored and wants to play.
I have a personal announcement to make.
All right, I'm listening.
I put in my resignation as the director of my dance group.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I know. Everybody's advising me against it, but right now my life is just very overwhelming. So anyhow, long story short, I am gonna see my the competition in Temecula. So we're gonna prepare for that. And then after that, then I'm not going to own my dance group or be director, choreographer of it. But I offered to stay on as a consultant for whomever wants to take over, if they do want to take over. And so last night I emailed one of my 5 of my strong dancers and just told them first and said, if anybody wants to take over, please let me know and I'll entertain the idea and help you guys. But I can't, do this anymore. And it's honestly, it has to do with a combination of health issues plus, time management.
Sure.
So I think when I got injured over in Washington, I injured my knee while I was visiting Sam. And I never got quite over it. And it wasn't until I actually saw a picture of myself when I was probably about 3 or 4 with a full-on leg cast that I realized that it probably, getting older and dancing for all of my life and, going through menopause and everything, this right leg where my knee has given me trouble is the one that was broken a long time ago. So I have not let my body fully heal since then. And with all of the changes that I'm going through, like I'm sitting on my couch right now, and when I get up, everything hurts. So there's definitely something wrong. I shouldn't feel this much pain at this age. And even though I went to the doctor multiple times, they're just like, oh yeah, your hormones are fine, everything looks fine. And I'm just like, I have to start letting them know that there's definitely something wrong, that they have to look into it, maybe some x-rays and stuff.
Or you might be
So-
eligible for some kind of a knee surgery or knee replacement operation.
Yeah, and I'm still active. I still go mushing with the dogs and everything. And yes, I know it's dangerous, but little things like jumping off of my scooter because they've gotten distracted and, preventing a fall sets my body back. Everything starts to ache and hurt. And then I go and I teach dance. And I still have to be an example. So I have to show them the kind of move and stuff. And it's very difficult for me to stay standing for very long. So I have to do something about it. I feel like my body is finally telling me, like, you really need to do something about yourself, because it can't go on like this. Not to mention everything is busy now. I mean, my work is very dependent on my leadership now. It's like I had a conversation with my executive director, and she is really relying on me for fundraising, as they should. It's just I don't have any help. Nobody knows how to do this position. So I have to build it from the ground up. And I've been spending a lot of my, time after work going into meetings, networking, going to events. And so all of that just takes a lot of brain space. So I don't have time anymore for creativity. And so it's very difficult. Not to mention, I'm still a single mom. I still have 2 kids. I still have to take them around. I still have to pay attention to them and make sure that they're, fed. And just, I feel like as a mom, I'm doing my, not doing a good job of being present for them.
You've got quite a ways to go before you're empty nested.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to spend this time just being distracted all the time with everything, like taking care of everybody else instead of myself and my children. That's what I feel like right now. Like I can't pay attention to my kids because I have to take care of everybody else.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah. I'm sorry, and I'm sad for the girls, because one of them emailed me last night and she goes, I'm having a hard time processing this because they're going through some stuff too. But I'm like, well, I got to take care of myself first, and my own family and my kids. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to walk away completely. It just means that I am going to take, a very small role now.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you heal up.
Do you wear knee pads when you go mushing with the dogs?
No, I wear nothing. No helmet, no nothing. Oh my God, today was the worst. There was a squirrel that just, the dogs just drug me up the street. It's not fun. Get distracted by squirrels. That's
You're
like their huge main distraction.
You're not worried about taking a spill with the dogs on the sled?
I've gotten close, but I don't know. I'm not worried, I guess. I don't know. That's been part of my problem. I have like no fear, and now that I'm getting older, it's
Prudence. You need to amp up the prudence.
yeah, exactly. I just don't know how.
Well, it's like anything, you learn to be more cautious as you have less and less agility and reaction time.
Yeah. No, my reaction time is good. I'm actually very surprised. My kids want to start mushing the dogs, and I'm like, oh, you got to start working on your reaction first. That's the biggest thing, because they can stop. Like they'll be running full speed and they'll stop like nothing.
I'm going to say goodbye. Kayla, Let me know if you're coming in the area. We'll be in touch. I'll let Gisela know.
Okay, bye, Josh.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Take it easy, Bear. See you hopefully tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I expect to be on tomorrow.
Sounds good. Take it easy, Sam.
I think Sam stepped away. Well, one reason to wear knee pads is that it's a good role model for your kids.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because if you take risks, then they'll take risks too.
It's bad.
Prudence.
Yeah.
Prudence.
Well, my older son's going to be in your area next week.
Oh, oh yeah, with his dad, you said.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hot here again next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're coming to the end of the month, aren't we? Yeah. I've been staying indoors. We had quite the heat. Well, we actually broke a 100-year-old high for the day last week, June 19th. 98 degrees in Boston.
Wow.
Broke the old record, broke a 100-year-old record by 2 degrees. Not too bad a day. It's 74 outside at midday. Not too bad today.
Yeah, it's beautiful here in where I'm at right now. It's beautiful. The weather is perfect. It's nice and sunny and big and blue. And, it's been like this now for like a week.
Oh yeah, well,
It's not too hot where I live. Gorgeous.
Yeah, we had unseasonable heat there for about a week, and then some cloud bursts Thursday night and Friday night. But you know, summertime, you get weather.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we muddle along, lumber along, and muddle along.
Do you think war is necessary?
I think war was a really bad invention. I mean, one of the things about intelligence is it should be able to resolve problems with some panache and deep reasoning instead of just combat. But we live in a very combat heavy culture. And I've never really understood why we have to have so much conflict, combat, and violence. I think it was just a really bad design of Western civilization.
Yeah, I would have to completely agree with you. I think it's, you know, I don't understand that at all. I also don't understand greed and, depleting resources.
Well, if you make a list, go back to the classic list of the 7 deadly sins, you can see why they're deprecated characteristic traits. You know, they're the least sustainable, the practices which are not terribly sustainable. And if too many people adopt those deprecated traits, then you have a dysfunctional culture, which we do. Greed and corruption, dysfunctionality. And on paper, it's all soluble. You can design cultures that don't have that. And people have designed cultures that don't have these deprecated features, but our species just doesn't seem to be able to evolve to that level of wisdom and prudence. Which is also a cause of depression. You look at it as you say, you know, how are we ever going to get out of this mess this hole that we've dug ourselves into? And even though you can see how to do it on paper, you don't see how to do it in practice.
But how would we change our biology with that?
Well, it's not so much biology. I mean, you can have a computer that's perfectly capable of doing fantastic computation, but you don't give it the code to do it. You just give it really dumb things to do. Same with the human brain. It can do pretty fancy stuff, but most of the time we run it at a very low grade level of thinking and information processing. You really have to have a culture that promotes very creative thinking and problem solving. And those cultures do exist in little niches in university communities and research communities and even creative communities. But those little niche communities they're small. They're niche. That's what you mean by niche communities. They're not the dominant.
Yeah. Don't remind me. I have a niche community that I just
Well, you do. And
need a big break from.
I mean, you can find niche communities that sort of isolated from the hoi polloi, from the general public, but then you basically withdrawn and you're not contributing very much to the general welfare. You know, these little isolated communities, you become almost like a hermit. You know, you have these little hermitage communities. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, and there were all these little communities, especially in Iowa. They had these little utopian communities, the Yamana colonies, and there's one in Pennsylvania, the Amish. You had these little utopian communities that were sort of segregated and separated from the general public. You know, the simple life. Try to minimize the, you know, the so-called 7 deadly sins. That never caught on. You know, we live in a capitalist culture, which is sex, power, and money. I mean, too many people have sex, power, and money as their highest values or priorities, objectives. And the things which are saner, wiser, are lower, those values are not pursued.
Yeah.
You know, health and wisdom and things like that, and education. I mean, I grew up in a culture where education was highly valued, but it wasn't the highest value of the whole culture, which is the highest value of one little niche community or minority niche community.
Yeah, I grew up in a culture where education was highly valued, but there was also an absence of, you know, absence of opportunity, and also an absence of, you know, the arts and,
Yeah.
you know, freedom.
I think I was fortunate in Omaha because there was an opportunity to get a good education at an affordable price. Public school and other sources of education were available. And there are parts of the country where that would not have been available. If I'd lived in, I don't know, Mississippi or someplace, probably wouldn't have had those opportunities.
But there are also cultures that view education as just, one path, one dimensional. They associate education with capitalism,
Yeah.
and therefore it doesn't appeal to everybody.
A
It
minimum
just
skill
appeals.
to earn a minimum skill for a livelihood, but it's not a pleasurable skill. I mean,
No,
Donald Sutherland just died, the actor Donald Sutherland, and his son Kiefer said that Donald Sutherland loved what he did and did what he loved. He loved the acting profession, and he loved it, and it was a living for him, and he did what he loved and loved what he did. Most people can't say that I love what I do and I do what I love. Most people don't have.
yes, and most people would look at acting as something that's, not very smart. It's hard. It's not easy.
It takes a lot more
Morphing
talent
into
than
these characters.
most people
Yeah.
who do amateur thespian work realize that it's a lot harder than it looks. When the professional does it, they make it look easy, but it ain't easy.
No, exactly. It's, just like any art discipline, it's very thought-provoking. You're actually using your brain,
Oh, absolutely.
so, and you're actually using or learning things that nobody else would really learn because it's not emphasized. In no way am I dissing STEM or STEAM or, well, arts, I guess, is a part of STEAM, but in no way am I dissing STEM and math and science or anything like that. But I think when you take education and you say the only form of education is this, and the only way that you'll be successful is through capitalism, then I think that's when you're promoting education as a bad thing to your community and your culture. At least that's how I got it in my own family.
Yep.
So and I see a lot of families and a lot of cultures struggling with that thought. It's not education to give yourself a full life. It's education to give yourself a life that you're enslaved in capitalism, and that's it.
I mean, you can have a culture where education is highly valued without it being capitalism, although capitalism does mean that if you have a rare skill, you can earn a damn good living selling your skills. Like, I went into technology and engineering, and they were sufficiently rare that I could get good jobs in places like the Bell system. But there weren't, you have to find a place where there's a demand for a skill that's a rare skill, and then develop that skill to the point where it's marketable. And look at the people who go into athletics and sports. I mean, there's a tremendous demand for entertainment, which includes sports. And an awful lot of people go into sports because they can earn a living at it, entertaining people.
Yeah,
But
and it's fun for them.
I don't think an economy, that's a pure entertainment economy, I don't think can survive. You have to have the infrastructure. There's a whole lot of infrastructure that's got to be there, and there are not that many people who find it pleasurable to work on infrastructure. I worked on the telephone network. And how many people would thought that would be a fabulous thing to do, to work on the telephone network or the computer network, or anything? But for us nerds, that was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're a pretty small niche. And I mean, I watched this YouTube video by this guy named Simon Anthony. He solves mainly Sudoku puzzles. And when he solves the puzzles, he'll come to some little detail of the puzzle. He says, "This is a really interesting detail." And then he stops and says, I'm no fun at parties, because the things that I'm interested in, nobody else would be interested in. So he points out that his interests are so narrowly focused on, logical thinking, that he's used to people joking that he's no fun at parties. And I can relate to that. Having interests is so narrow that nobody else could care less.
Yeah.
I find
I
it.
think there's more. I think there are more nerds popping up though.
I mean, our technical culture would be dead without nerds. You need people to do engineering and science and mathematics and technology. I mean, here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are on Zoom, and you don't actually see the people who create Zoom, but everybody, all this technology behind the scenes for the internet, computers, and Zoom, and who are the heroes? They're completely anonymous. But without it, you wouldn't, how would you and I ever have met each other? We wouldn't possibly.
Yeah.
I would be sitting here in, greater Boston, and you'd be out there in Southern California, and never the twain should meet. So I always thought communication was a really powerful technological tool, long distance communication, and here we are.
It is. Yeah.
And how can you have collaboration over distances without good long distance communication that's multimodal, not just writing letters? It used to be all you could do was write a letter, and it would take 3 days to get there, and it's whatever you could put in text. It was very primitive and very limited. So, but I was lucky. I could ride the wave of the telecommunication technology, radio, television, movies, telephony, all that high-tech communication was a major innovation in the 20th century. You didn't have that before the 20th century. Now the question is, what will be the major innovations for the 21st century? I think cognitive science and information technologies probably will be the frontiers, and bioengineering. Things that weren't part of the curriculum. Back in the 20th century, there was no curriculum that would prepare you for that. You would have had to learn it after the turn of the century. Bioengineering and artificial intelligence and cognitive science. There was a little bit of that, I guess, in the 20th century, not very much. I mean, computers was the second half of the 20th century. So it was the 1980s when the general public started getting access to personal computers. Before that, people maybe had a calculator in the 60s. That was about it.
A type.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And then we went from the manual typewriter to the electric typewriter to word processing was one of the first really widespread public applications of computer technologies, word processing.
Yeah, I still remember my Uncle Bob gave me an electric typewriter. I remember that was like really interesting. And before that I had just your standard typewriter.
Yeah.
Where if you made a mistake, you're really screwed.
I think Mark Twain had one of the very first manual typewriters, and that's why he could be so prolific in writing his novels and stories and whatnot. He had a manual typewriter, one of the earliest users of the manual typewriter.
Yeah.
So,
I pride myself in like spelling things correctly and my use of grammar, at least on paper, just because, I actually used a manual typewriter for a long time as a youth, and it was really nice to be able to complete an entire page of a letter without making a mistake.
yeah, because correcting mistakes back in the typewriter era was a pain. Word processing made it really easy to edit and correct and perfect a document before you printed it. That was a huge advance.
So you had to be really intentional and even almost strategic with your writing.
Yeah.
I remember writing things down on paper first. Okay, I'm going to write this down on paper, and then I have a gist of what I'm going to say. And then I use a manual typewriter. And, I loved being faster with it too. Faster with my thoughts, faster with my fingers. and then a lot more fluid with my words.
The fewer revisions, the ability to do cheap and fast revisions, that was a big boon.
Yeah, yeah. To this day, if I do see that I've made a mistake, then I usually try to correct it myself before asking the computer to correct it for me, so that I don't make the same mistake again.
The other thing is that the advent of word processing made it easy to produce large volumes of text, but it turned out that producing large volumes was not as important as producing concise, small
Yes.
but well-written material as opposed to. So you really had to learn to write fewer words, but more prudently edited down to concise. Although I think
Yep.
I think I overdid that by using too large a vocabulary for the average reader. I ended up developing a vocabulary to use fewer words where the words had more richer meanings.
Right.
And then what happened was I didn't realize that I was exceeding the working vocabulary of a lot of readers. It took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah, that's what grant writing is.
Yeah.
300 words. Let us know your mission or your intent in 300 words.
Although, at least when you're writing a grant proposal, you can assume that people reading the grant proposals do have a big working vocabulary.
You'll be
As opposed to
surprised
the general
sometimes.
public.
Yeah. What I've learned is that they don't my use of vocabulary, I didn't realize was actually quite rich. There are people who don't have that rich of vocabulary. And so I'm learning now to just dumb it down, which is hard to do sometimes, especially if you have to do it in so many words.
Yeah. I
Because
had that issue with Stacy. Stacy would come out and say, Barry, you're using vocabulary words that I don't know what they mean. Very few people would actually say that. Last night we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I had two computers there that I was using to support myself, and both of them were having trouble booting up. And I said, my computers are being recalcitrant. And people said, recalcitrant, there's a word you don't hear very often.
Ooh, yeah.
But it never occurred to me. Now, if I say my computers are being recalcitrant, are the people around the table going to know what I meant? And it never occurred to me to be concerned about using a word like recalcitrant. But if I put it in
What does that mean?
If I put it in a text out to the general public, people will come and go, what was that word he used? I'm not going to bother to look it up. I just skip that sentence. So finding the balance between too much and too little, and too simple and too complex, that's not an easy balance to find, and just the sweet spot.
Yeah. That's why I like listening to you guys. You and Sam have great.
Sam asks good questions. I'm not very good at coming up with good questions. I'm better at coming up with good answers to rarely asked questions, like the one that Sam asked a week or two ago about what question would you put to a candidate if you only had one question to put. I love those kinds of questions, and I love constructing the answers to them, but it doesn't come off the top of your head. You got to stop and think about it, sometimes for a day or two before you have a good response.
I had to say that to my boss last weekend. She was getting quite mad at what I was saying to her, and so I said, you know what?
Let me think about that for a while.
Yeah, let me think about it, because I am not conveying myself correctly.
But let me process that and come up with a well-crafted, concise and coherent response, but I'm not going to do it in zero time.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Some people too, they think that if you can't come up with an answer right away, they think that there is something wrong with your intelligence.
Yeah, you can't be. Politicians have to respond, and when they can't respond to the actual question, they'll just talk nonsense and gibberish and hot air, and you get these hot air responses that are unresponsive to the question. And so
Yeah.
much politics is just hot air responses that there's no real dialogue going on. They're not answering the question that the interlocutor asked.
And that's a problem.
Oh yeah.
You
It
know?
means that you're not actually availing yourself of the opportunity for communication. You're talking, but you're not communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's learning
Exactly.
anything from anybody else.
That used to be an argument of mine. Just because you can answer quickly, it doesn't anything you say has any merit. Just
Exactly.
because you use big words doesn't mean those big words are correct. So you can't fool me. You know, just because I'm not responding right away doesn't mean I have something of intelligence and thought. And you know,
Is it informative? If
yeah.
you say something that's generally informative to the other person, it's better not to say anything at all. At least not at that
Mhm.
time. And it's often not easy to figure out what would be informative to the audience. You know, I don't always know what would be informative. Tell me something that's interesting that I don't already know. I mean, that's basically the challenge. What can I say that's both interesting that they don't already know?
Right.
But they
Right.
can say, oh, now that's interesting. I get that. You know, that's a high bar to meet, at least certainly on ongoing basis. If you're lucky to do it once a week.
That's why I like quiet people sometimes.
Yeah, well, I could sit and think about something for probably several days before I have an answer, if it's a good question
Yeah.
or unsolved problem. That's the whole thing about unsolved problems is you can go off and spend a lot of time cogitating and pondering unsolved problems before you have even the glimmer of a good idea to begin developing. I think that's one of the reasons that Sam's collaborology it tends to not develop collaboration. They talk about the objective of collaboration without actually finding anything where the collaboration succeeds. It flounders. A lot of collaboration flounders. You can talk about a lot of things, but at the end of the day, you don't have any product that's worth producing, worth developing.
May I ask you why you use the word recalcitrant?
Mainly because I wanted to simply convey to the people that my computers weren't booting up and coming online, and I did. That was the word. That was the one word that basically summarized it.
Yeah.
Simply, and,
Hey, that's
my
a good one.
computers are being recalcitrant. Which is, you know, I could say that in more words. My computers are being bulky. They're not booting up and coming online.
Yeah.
My computers are being recalcitrant. It's one word. Does it?
That's awesome.
So, yeah, a lot of it is finding the shortest, concise way to say something that conveys the message succinctly, coherently, fewest words.
Yes. Assuming that the
But
other
words,
person knows.
but within the working vocabulary of your audience.
Yeah.
That's the thing you don't know. You don't know the working vocabulary of your audience.
Yes, exactly.
So when they said recalcitrant, haven't heard that word, but it confirmed that they knew the word, which didn't surprise me. You know, these are all college, graduate, college educated people. So it didn't surprise me that it was within the working vocabulary, but it just goes to show you that you can use words that people know that they don't often hear. I mean, if you said it to, let's say, a teenager, they probably wouldn't. I mean, you can ask your sons, do they know the word recalcitrant? Would they recognize that it is a word and it has a meaning that they would, would appreciate without it having to be defined?
My older son might.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite possible that a 13, 14, 15-year-old student would not have learned that word. For all I know.
You know what's funny? I just asked well, I asked this a couple of weeks ago. My teenager, I guess they're both teens now. Well, I asked my older son what he uses AI for. And I asked him if he uses it more for revision um of his like essays and grammars. He says no, he doesn't like to use it for that just because he likes to use his own brain for that, which I thought was really cool. But what was really funny is he told me that he uses it for either like problem solving, certain mathematical questions, or he uses it for like silly things. Like they'll ask AI some silly stuff, sure things.
I use it for trivia questions where I'm looking for an answer for something that would be essentially the answer to a question. Good for that. But that's not really AI. That's just general arcane knowledge. I mean, I would
Yeah,
certainly,
yeah.
if I had the faculty to ask it to make me drawings, a lot of people will give it something that they wanted, a cartoon drawing, because I can't do cartoon drawing. I can't do any drawing. But the thing about asking it to solve problems, if you ask it to solve a math problem that is non-trivial, they won't. They can't. You can ask it to solve very simple math problems, but if as soon as you get into anything as much as algebra, they're not going to be able to perform very well. At least not currently, because they're not designed to do math problems. Mathological is a completely different kind of information processing than making up a narrative. Doesn't have to be true, just a story. I mean, a lot of our narratives are fictional. They're literally entertainment fiction, but they don't have to be the ground truth. If you want to be the ground truth, that's a whole nother requirement. That's a lot harder. You can say things that are perfectly plausible, they just don't happen to be the ground truth. It was like that thing about that I was talking to Josh about, could you grow animals that you could harvest a portion of the flesh without having to sacrifice the animal? Like you can take a piece of fruit off a tree and the tree continues to produce fruit. You can even take milk out of a cow, but you couldn't take a piece of meat out of a cow and have it regenerated. And that's something that's perfectly plausible, but it's sort of beyond bioengineering as of 2025. Might be possible in 5 to 10 years. So you can generate things which are sensible, plausible, but not realistic or practical at the present time. But I mean, Leonardo had the idea for a helicopter, but they couldn't build a helicopter until they finally had metallurgy that was good enough to make the parts that wouldn't, fail. That was the big last obstacle for building a real helicopter was metallurgy. Making the metal parts for the rotor that wouldn't wear out within an hour.
Right.
I mean, the first flying machines, they were flimsy. They didn't have the structural integrity to be sustainable for more than one flight. Not even one. So, yeah.
Well, it is 9:59.
Yes, we've just coming to the end of the second hour, so probably time to sign off. Wish you a happy Saturday and maybe see you tomorrow if you're on.
All right. Well, same to you, and have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, Sam, we're going to end exactly at the end of the second hour. Leave meeting.